If you go up to any current retiree and ask them what their major regrets are financially, these two are almost always mentioned. Number one, he wishes he would have started investing earlier. And number two, he wishes he would not have tried to time the market. What we're going to do in this video is look at somebody's actual case of what actually happened to them. Going to use actual numbers of somebody. And what we're going to do is look at this individual right here. We're going to take somebody that began working a full-time job 1984. They were able to put away $250 a month back then. And they were very good savers, so they wanted to save, increase that by 4% a year, and they pretty much kept up with that. Not every year, but pretty much average this kind of money. So they would start out with $250 a month, the next year $260, and so on. And they got in 1984. Now look what's happening in the market in these years right here. Up, 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 up. Well, he's just starting out with his job, so he's kind of hesitant to get into it. So he's just basically saving in a savings account. But after 1985, he sees this up 31%. He says, man, maybe I ought to dip my toe in there. He starts investing some money. Getting a good year in 1986. And then 1987 came. Folks, you know what happened in 1987? It's called Black Monday. On October 19th, 1987, the Dow Jones Industrial dropped 22.6%, and he panicked. Even though for the year 1987 was up 5.25%, he didn't look at that. He was concerned about what happened on that one day, and so he panicked. So he basically got out. He watched these returns, up 16, up 31. He's thinking about getting back in, and then the market goes down 3% for the year. But actually, during the year, it went down quite a bit more than that. So he says, nope, stock market's not for me. So he just kept saving away in CDs and accounts like that, savings accounts, and he watched all these returns go by. Finally, along about 1995, especially along in there when he saw the market's been going up so much, he's a little bit hesitant. He said, man, it's been going up so much, it's probably going to drop one of these years. But anyway, he starts investing some money in there, gets some good returns. He doesn't have a whole lot in there, but he's got some good returns there, and he's feeling really good about it. And then what happens? We had these 3 down years, 2000 to 2002, and he watched what he had put in dropping, and he just basically panicked and said, I can't take this anymore. So he basically got out. And here's the ones that he missed, folks. This is the returns for the S&P 500. These are the 3 that killed off his investing interest, and he missed these kind of returns. But he was kind of thankful because it dropped 37%. But then he missed these. All of these he missed. And so he basically just used brute force savings. He didn't really invest much, and he just didn't want to try to time the market. He tried to time the market and says, it just doesn't work for me. And folks, this is what you end up doing when you do that kind of stuff, when you get in and out of the market based on what's happening. I saw this recently. Here's what the average investor gets. This was for a 20-year return, they averaged 3.6% on the money. Folks, that's not even hardly keeping up with inflation. Look at some of these other ones, folks. Often recommended to have a 60-40 asset allocation. Folks, when you're in an accumulation stage, why do you want to just be 60% in? Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I just love to run numbers. What happens if you just stay in the S&P 500 for that whole 20 years? You would have averaged 9.5% over this 20-year period. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I just love to run numbers, but I also saw this. It's time in the market, not timing the market. Here's what happens if you miss just the best, the best 5 days in this, I think it was 1990 to 2020. There was a 31-year period in here. If you missed just the 5 best days, you went from 10.8% down to a 9.2%. You missed the 10 best days, you went down to 8.1%. But look at this, folks. This is 31 years. That's less than 1 day a year. If you missed the 25 best days, you would have gotten about half of what you got as opposed to just buying and holding. But let's go ahead and look at some numbers here because I want to show you how it actually would have worked out for him. Using 1984 numbers going down through her, if he would have just stuck with his numbers, he would have had, after 35 years, he would have had $1,058,000. Just leaving it in the S&P 500 the whole time. Here's the actual numbers here for every 35-year period for the last 100 years. All kinds of variance here. You can see 100% of the time you have over $1 million. In fact, the worst case scenario going down through here is $1,018,000, which is actually 1994 numbers right there. And 1984 isn't much behind. Had $1,058,000. Again, that's the worst case scenario. The median would have been 1.5 million. The best case scenario, 3.48 million. But folks, he got in and he got out. And instead of ended up with this kind of money, he ended up with about half of that. So he put in this kind of money. Worst case scenario would have had that. And the numbers he actually did have from 1984, he would have had $1,058,000, but instead he ended up with half of that. And folks, this is just looking at 1984 numbers. We need to look at the whole 100 years and see how often you would have putting in the same kind of money. Worst case scenario would have been 1944 with these kind of numbers. His worst case scenario was 1984, where he ended up with $1,058,000. But the median over the last 100 years for a 35-year period would have been 1.512. Now, I want you to catch something else here, folks. This red row is the worst case scenario for each of these time periods from 10 to 45 years. Notice how every 5 years, if you can start 5 years earlier, again, what's our point here? He wishes he would have started investing earlier. We just look at, don't be trying to time the market, but look what happens if you just stick with it. If you start 5 years earlier. This is the worst case scenario. Put in 124,000, you have 238,000. But look at that. It'd be more than double that waiting 5 years. If you could have gotten in there 5 years early, you'd double your money. And if you could have been there 5 years earlier than that, you would have quadrupled your money. You would have $1 million, and it keeps going up. You could have started maybe when you're 25 or so, you'd have 1.7. Again, folks, this red row is the worst case scenario. And look if you can start at age 20. Maybe you graduate from high school and start getting a full-time job along about 2022, 2.841 million, just putting in 353,000. In other words, each 5-year period is basically almost doubling. From the 35 to 45, it basically tripled. But look at those amazing numbers. Get it in there, get started early, and don't try to time the market. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just running numbers for people, which is what we do on this channel. We set up spreadsheets and show you actual numbers. We show both the accumulation stage, which we're talking about in this video, but we also look at the withdrawal stage. You need to understand some of these other financial concepts to really understand what you need to do once you reach retirement and once you start withdrawing your money. Check out some of the other videos. We've got dozens of them out there which explain each one of these things. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a numbers guy. But please consider subscribing to this channel. Please tell others about it. Let them know there's a channel out there that will run numbers for them. And thanks so much for watching. Please like the video also.